Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions. To such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
There are, of course, those who do not want us to speak. Even now, orders are being shouted into telephones, and men with guns will soon be on their way.
It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation.
People are very ignorant. You do not know what it's like to live on the street, have no roof over your head, be able to cover up at night, be able to have a bath. Nobody knows what it's like at all. I've been out here for a year.
About the fentanyl crisis, what does that look like to you?
Terrible.
Have you seen it down here on the street?
Yeah, I've seen 3 people die, like, right in front of me. It's not fun.
People you knew?
Yeah, best friend.
Visited the infamous downtown east side in Vancouver after BC's decision to decriminalize every drug.
All drugs are good and balanced. God made all drugs.
1 year later, what does the city of Vancouver look like today?
People die.
Man, I've been smoking crack all day.
What are you smoking it? What is it, Ben? You think if someone offered you like, yo, you want to get in detox right now, you take them up on it?
No, because I don't think that works, man.
Yeah.
You have to be ready.
The government controls the drug trade and always has. Let's make people like me the bad guy. Let's make the unwanted middle children the bad guy.
There's lots of extortion. The women are actually the people that run the street, and they're all very mentally ill, and you don't know if you're just going to get clipped off the side of the head when you're just sitting there minding your own business.
As we speak, this young man is pulling out the torch, and he is going to light some meth.
And it's done in the open. I mean, these people are insane.
Why? Because while the truncheon may be used in lieu of conversation, words will always retain their power. Words offer the means to meaning, and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. And the truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country, isn't there?
Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate 1 generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations or counterbalanced by the basic values without being challenged.
And I will take exception with one important talking point that's been repeated a few times and I think is really problematic. And it's this idea that we as a board have driven students out of this school district with our woke politics.
I still have nightmares about it.
Nightmares about it? You really, 5 years later, you still think about it?
Yeah, even more so now than before.
Some people will chalk this up to a culture war documentary.
There's political stuff outside her door and like in the hall beside her door, and it's like, I don't want that in the classroom.
Or even dismiss it as right-wing propaganda.
How often would you say that LGBTQ issues were talked about in class?
Every class.
Neither side of politics belong in school, nor does religion, nor does anything that is personal beliefs. A teacher should not be forcing personal agenda onto students, no matter what it is. And it is so important that we try and stop this because it's out of hand.
schools often prioritize memorization, conformity, and obedience. Though, because the entire history of the modern education system is rooted in making students docile and conforming to societal norms. The Prussian education model that was specifically designed to meet the needs of the state, i.e. to prepare kids for a life of obedience and working in factories for very low wages. The Prussian model was then adopted in much of the Western world, where it continues to function very similarly to this day.
The demoralization process is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by thanks to lack of moral standards.
It seems that certain participants went way over the top and walked the parade completely naked, exposing themselves for many to see, including kids. Now, is that even legal?
Whether or not 5, 10, 15-year-olds should be exposed to this, that's a longer conversation. But when it comes to the criminal law has two very specific sections about this. Section 173, which covers indecent act and exposure, and Section 174, which is very, very specifically about nudity, whether you're on your own property or public property. And the fact that the Toronto police say, well, it's Pride Day, so it's one out of the 365 days in a calendar, and it's the only one that it's okay, that should raise an eyebrow. And the other thing that your viewers should know is that there are many sections of the criminal code now in the world that we live in that are really tailored to preventing people under the age of 16, kids under the age of 16, from being exposed to anything in the sexual realm. And when you look at the videos or the pictures of what these men were doing with lots of youngsters, I mean really young children, walking by them and a number of non-consenting adults, the Toronto Police Service, in my view, have demonstrated, and again, this is the byproduct of the world and the political time we live in, a tremendous amount of cowardice because they don't want to be called a name.
As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems.
2 million Canadians had to use the food bank in 1 month alone.
Canada is worse than you think, and you can forget about buying. In major cities like Toronto and Vancouver, the minimum income that's required to qualify for a mortgage is double or triple the median household income.
Canada's military is looking grim. With dwindling recruitment numbers and consistent procurement challenges, Canada's defense capabilities are in dire straits. Some experts saying a radical shift is the only way to boost our defense spending and reinvest in our armed forces.
The topic today, of course, is does Canada need a foreign policy review? And I've been writing on this ad nauseum in various publications, and the answer is an obvious yes in my mind.
And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis.
Canadians know that the way to get through this pandemic is for everyone to get vaccinated. So unless people have a medical exception, they will not be able to board a plane or a train in Canada if they are unvaccinated. That is about protecting our young people. It's about protecting Canadians. We are absolutely unequivocal on that because this is how we get through this pandemic.
You deserve a government that's going to continue to say, get vaccinated. And you know what? If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk. We need to be strong in the decisions we're taking going forward, and we need to put people first, which we have always done. We need to keep working to protect and build a better future together, and that's why I need you to continue to step up. I need you to talk to your neighbors and talk to your friends. Talk to those folks who are still wondering whether they should get vaccinated and tell them, yes.
You know, I actually gave them some real advice. I said that if you actually say it louder, we've learned in the House of Commons, if you repeat it, if you say it louder, if that is your talking point, people will totally believe it. People will totally believe it. People will totally believe it.
And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. This is what will happen if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government with benevolent dictators who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. Your leftists, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot.
Cruelty and injustice, intolerance and oppression. And where once you had the freedom to object, to think and speak as you saw fit, you now have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity and soliciting your submission.
We need cameras.
How did this happen? Who's to blame? Well, certainly there are those who are more responsible than others, and they will be held accountable. But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror.